It's not you, it's me. What am I talking about? If you are determined, and I do mean determined, to hit your Q2 goals in terms of your sales targets, quota goals, whatever it is, whether you're a founder, a sales rep, etc., there's a good chance that it's not you, it's me. And I mean, I haven't created urgency without being pushy or salesy or scripted. But high level sellers, that's what they're able to do. They're able to create urgency. Let me explain. So, for example, if I were to tell you that we were looking at the 4 quarters in the year and we're already moving toward mid-April, and your quota, if you miss quota in Q1, there's and you're not looking like you're going to be on target for Q2, that there's a really good chance you're going to miss your entire quota for 2025. You would start to think about that and say, what can I do differently to hit my quota for 2025, much less Q2? So whenever a deal gets delayed for me, or someone says, let me think about it, or I'm not sure, I have to, really take a look at it, I start to think to myself, what did I miss? And then I start to go through, did I ask her the right questions, right? Discovery. Did I craft the correct solution for them? Right. So was it a timing thing? Is it a timeline thing? Do they not have a trigger? Do they not have a lever? Sometimes there are levers that have to be pulled by a certain time so that you can actually achieve the goal. If I'm not pulling levers and helping them understand that you can't wait until we get into Q3 to begin to try to achieve your quota or goal. If I haven't outlined that, there's a really good chance that they're going to think, hey, I've got time. I can think about this. If I'm talking to a corporate buyer and their sales team has missed overall quota for Q1, my overall thinking is I need to understand what their sales cycle looks like, right? Because if your sales cycle is 1 month or 3 months or 6 months, that has a lot of impact on whether or not you're going to be able to hit your goal. And looking at the pipeline, like what's actually in your pipeline. Is there any chance that you're going to get to your goal based on what's in the pipeline, your average deal size, and all the things? Okay, so I always start with it's not you, it's me. Did I ask the right questions? Did I create the right solution? Do I have the right timing with them? Right. And then finally, what else did I miss? Is there anything else I missed? Am I talking to the right person? Am I saying the right things to the right person at the right time? There are lots of ways you can look at it. So at the end of the day, part of what I do is I teach from a heart-centered framework. And the reason for that, it's a proven heart-centered framework, is because I literally grew up as the shyest girl in the room. Shyest girl in the room, meaning would not ring the bell on the bus to get off the bus, would just ride along to the next person's stop and get off with them. And I had to leverage my mindset development to get me to a certain space, whether it was taking inventory of how I felt in the moment or creating a visual for the person I wanted to be and then step into those shoes. But I had to figure out a way to leverage my mindset to get to a higher level of thinking and higher level belief. And that's something that I help my clients do. Okay, so that's part of my story. I went from the shyest girl in the room to selling over $25 million to Fortune 1000 companies like Wells Fargo Bank, Discover Financial, and literally leading teams within the organizations that I work for to sell those deals. Okay, so we've got to hit the T in Heart Center framework, which is timing, timelines, and triggers to understand if we are in the right area, right? So what's driving their decisions? What is driving the opportunity for them to make a decision now versus why didn't they make it last year? Why would they make it now versus later this year? Things of that nature. So that's number one. So there's some clarity that needs to be had around timing, timeline, and triggers. That's called our timing anchor. Okay. If you add that to clarity around ROI, meaning if you have to close 10 deals every month to get to your goal, and we're halfway into April and you've closed 2, then we have to start looking at the ROI. You have to start understanding, is there any chance that you're going to actually get to your goal for April? Much less, right? I'm talking Q2 now, it could be Q3 or Q4. Is there any chance that you're going to get to your goal for the quarter and then hence for the year? Okay, so that's clarity of the return on investment. And finally, finally, in the summary of what we do, it's the buyer-led discovery. It's understanding why they would make a decision now versus any other time. Okay. Put those three things together. I'll say them again: timeline anchor, clarity around ROI, and buyer-led discovery, not necessarily in that order. If you add those three things up, typically there will be action taken. If you're missing one of those levers or one of them's turned down, there's a chance there will not be action taken. So that's the point of looking at the deals that you have in your pipeline, to be sure that the levers are turned up, the dials are turned up, and that you feel really strongly about actually getting to the action taken piece of this puzzle, so to speak. Okay. And then finally, before and after scenarios. So as I mentioned previously, I think it was in another video, I talked a little bit about being a transformation junkie. I absolutely that is just my thing. I love to see people go from not thinking they can do something to knocking it out of the park, or just to achieving the one step that they needed to knock it out of the park. Let me give you an example. I've advised individual business owners that have said, why would corporate want to buy from me when I've never worked for corporate before? And my comment was exactly that. They would like to work with you, partner with you, because you've never worked for corporate and you don't have the typical corporate pace. You don't have the thinking. You're coming in from the outside with fresh eyes, which typically are highly valued. So that's number one. And that particular individual, I watched on social media, her kids more or less get their passports, right? So what does that mean? They went from birthday parties at, local spots like a Dave and Buster's or whatever the case may be, to actually traveling out of the country. If that's your thing, great. But traveling out of the country to celebrate birthdays and different things, spring break, summertime, etc. I watched them get passports, right? And I know for sure winning $500,000 deals, etc., was part of them getting passports and being able to uh, enjoy the flexibility of traveling abroad. Okay, again, if that's your thing, great. If it's not, I'm sure there's something that's driving you. I've also watched other clients that were kind of stuck in the mid six-figure range, trying to push to a higher level, and really just needed the science of sales, understanding what that flow looks like, and then creating their system to get to the outcome. And I have a specific client who's done a fantastic job of developing the system that she uses over and over and over to get to her end in mind goal. So there are specific areas that we have to check mark, so to speak, to get to those areas. Again, the why is because when we don't, that means a dial is turned down and your buyer is kind of like, I don't know, nice to have, right? Like they call it a vitamin versus an aspirin. It's a nice to have, not a need to have. We want to be in the need to have category. And that doesn't mean we make it a need to have. That means we understand why it would be a need to have for them and we're able to communicate it. So again, my zone of genius is where you have leads in the pipeline that actually could be turned up, accelerated, and you could work on to actually help your buyer navigate to their best decision. And their best decision, the goal would be for it to be with you. If it's not, then the goal is for you to say that sooner versus later so that you can go out back into the universe and find someone whose goal is to go with you. And I think a lot of times as salespeople, sales-led founders, salespeople, sales leaders, we have a tendency to hold on really tight to things that really should have been caught and released back into the universe. If you can give someone a referral, if you can give somebody recommendation, you can tell them some of the challenges that they may have getting the whole solution that they're looking for. Sometimes buyers want a whole solution, and the whole solution kind of has to be piecemeal together, and they may not want that. So it could be that you're giving them insight there. At the end of the day, the overall goal is to create urgency without being pushy, salesy, scripted, but helping them navigate to their own best decision. So what I'd love to do with you is see if there's a way I can help you navigate to your own best decision. Feel free to book a call or just subscribe. Stay right here, subscribe, and hit the bell if you like, because I'm going to do another video and we're going to be talking about the nuances of sales that go with the science and the art of B2B sales. But really, it's human to human sales. So if you're in B2C, feel free to stick around and watch the next video that I'm going to drop in the next couple of days. All right. Thanks for being here. I'm rooting for you. I know we got this. Okay. Thanks. Stay inspired.